Grief is, well, it's like a silence that swells, swallowing up all the sound in a room that you didn't even notice before. For Lenka, that silence became deafening when she lost her mother and younger brother, all within the course of 2 years. I mean, imagine that, one blow after another, and suddenly, the very foundation of her world it crumbled away. She described feeling, lost, like floating in a vast, unrelenting void, where sadness shapes your every thought. And honestly, who can blame her? Grief isn't just an emotion, it's this weight. It pins you down and steals the air from your lungs. And for Lenka, it was near impossible to find a way out, until her father became her lifeline. Despite his own grief, his own mountains to climb, it was her father who anchored her. He became the steady hand in the storm, the voice that whispered what she needed most to hear, that she didn't have to face it all alone. There were these moments, these small, unassuming moments, where they shared their pain together, crying, laughing even, and somehow those moments became, threads, stitching their broken pieces together bit by bit. It's remarkable, isn't it, how shared grief can build this bond that's deeper than words. When you're standing in the wreckage together, you cling to each other because, honestly, there's nothing else to hold on to. And that's exactly what Lenka and her father did. They became each other's lifeline, their love for the ones they'd lost. Her mother, her brother. It didn't diminish. No, it's what strengthened them together, what carried them forward, one trembling step at a time. Through their shared sorrow, they created, basically, this new kind of connection. A connection that wasn't about fixing the pain or forcing smiles for each other, but rather just being with the grief, being with all of it, together. And over time, even as the weight of their loss lingered, they began to find flickers of strength that they hadn't thought possible. Sometimes life places us in roles we never imagined, roles we didn't ask for, and ones we don't feel ready for. For Lenka, the loss of her mother and younger brother left her in such a role. It was a role that required strength, compassion, and resilience, because she wasn't just grieving. She found herself becoming a caregiver for her father, someone who had always been her rock, but was now battling his own storms of sorrow. The shift in their dynamic was something neither of them could have predicted. I mean, how could they? Suddenly, Lenka was the one offering words of comfort, holding him up when he faltered, the moments when grief made it too hard for him to keep going on his own. But here's the thing. In giving him her strength, she found her own. It wasn't immediate, no. It came slowly, creeping in like the soft light of dawn after a long, restless night. There were days when it felt nearly impossible. When she wanted to crumble under the weight of it all, but instead had to muster every ounce of courage to be strong, for him. And it wasn't just about consoling each other. They cried together, yes, but they also, they laughed together. Those small moments of shared joy, unexpected, fleeting, became lifelines in the midst of their grief. They discovered that even in their tears, there was room for laughter, for love. The journey wasn't perfect, of course. Nothing about grief is. There were missteps, arguments even, moments when the pain was too raw, too overwhelming, and they couldn't quite see eye to eye. But somehow, through it all, they found ways to support one another. It's funny, isn't it? How the roles we play in our families can evolve in ways we never expected. The caregiver becomes the cared for, and the cared for learns to be the giver. These shifts, they hold their own kind of beauty, even amidst the sorrow. For Lenka and her father, leaning on each other didn't just help them survive. It gave them a reason to keep going. Their shared grief became shared strength. It wove something new between them, something that helped them start to piece together a life forever changed by loss. but still, somehow, filled with connection and hope. Grief. It's unpredictable, isn't it? It doesn't follow a map or schedule, and it certainly doesn't come with instructions. For Lenka and her father, this unpredictability became part of their new normal. Some days felt brighter, lighter, almost like they'd taken a step forward. And then there were days when the pain would, well, come roaring back, completely uninvited. It reminded them over and over again that healing isn't this neat, linear process. It's messy, like waves on a stormy sea, pulling you under and then letting you catch your breath, just barely. But even so, they found that the waves could be navigated. Together they learned that moving forward didn't mean leaving their loved ones behind. No, it was about carrying the love for Lenka's mother and brother forward with them as they built something new. They held on to the happy memories, cherished them like treasures, while also making room for the possibility of joy again. And slowly, ever so slowly, light began to filter through the cracks of their sorrow. One of the things that helped for both of them was their community. It wasn't just about friends or extended family. It was anyone who could offer a kind word, a listening ear, or even a shared moment of understanding. It's incredible, isn't it, how people we might not even know that well, can become anchors in our hardest times. There's a strength in togetherness, in the unwritten understanding that you're not walking through this alone. And for Lenka and her father, the embrace of their community became a lifeline they hadn't realized they needed. What stands out most about their journey is their resilience. How, in the depths of their grief, they managed to find hope, a flicker at first, growing ever brighter as they kept walking forward. They didn't erase their pain. Instead, they found a way to live with it, to allow it to coexist alongside moments of new happiness and new experiences. The love they shared for their mother and brother, that became their fuel. It gave them the courage to laugh again, to dream again, and to hope again. And so, as we close this chapter, let's not forget the lesson their journey teaches us, that even in the darkest shadows, there is light. And even when the road ahead feels unbearably heavy, we don't have to go it alone. Hope, love, and connection, they're the threads that guide us forward through the chaos. And on that note, thank you for joining me in honoring Lenka and her father's story. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.